Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of 12 Monkeys. So today's episode was very interesting because obviously we had basically the team divided. Like Ramsey and Cassie want to go to 1961 to deal with the whole witness situation because it's like, oh, they read the report. That's where Type was mentioned, as well as the witness was kind of brought up as well. And Cole wants to head to 1957 to deal with the primary that's there because it's like the storm is getting closer and soon it's going to reach the facility and wipe them all out. What I liked about that situation, for one, I like the fact is that it creates a bigger divide between them because the team is always like joined together or divided. It's like the team can never find the perfect balance because they like each other one moment and then they hate each other the next because they don't always agree with each other's decisions. Especially, it seems like a lot of them don't agree with a lot of decisions that Cole makes. I guess considering what was kind of brought up last episode about how Ramsey and Cassie both feel like they sacrificed so much for him, yet when it came down to it, he always chose in their eyes, he always chose the other one above them. But what I really liked is what they ended up doing was like, oh, they joined up with Adler. I kind of knew he was going to help him. He was like, oh, I'm not the one that chooses the missions. I'm just the one to program. I was like, okay, he's definitely going to help you, especially considering because I like what he brought up to Jones. She's like, why are you doing this? He's like, this is like this is what's going to help us in the end. You promised me 10 years ago that I'd have my child back, that you save everyone's lives, the people that are dead, as well as ensuring that the people here that exist, that are still alive now, get to live as well. And it was like, you've kind of reneged on that. Like, you haven't shown us any results. It's just like, oh, we've done this and that, but like, it's never had any long time. Like, they've always been on a losing end. They've had small wins here and there, but nothing significant enough to change, this world that's been created to bring, in his case, bring back his child. So, and it's kind of sad because that's what brought them together. It's like, your whole time machine thing was going to help me get back my child, especially because he already resents Jones a little bit anyway, because obviously it's been all this time and he still hasn't got his child back, but also because Jones does have her daughter back, but it's like, I don't have my child back. Yeah, you might have lost 24 years with her, but you still got her back in your life. Remember, because that's what they bonded over anyway. Why they both they bonded over the fact that they both lost a child, and that's kind of why he decided to work with them. But what I liked is, because what I was expecting the things to happen, it's like, okay, first you get Cole sent to 1957, and while they're preoccupied, then Adler changed it and put Ramsey and Cassie in 61. I thought they were just going to handle that by them. I thought that was how it was going to work, but all three of them ended up in 61. I guess the reason why they did that was to make I guess it looked a little less suspicious if he, I don't know, because it doesn't look any less suspicious because he was able to change the date without Jones or anyone else noticing. But I guess if he had already put the information in ahead of time, so if he was doing it, while they were getting ready to splinter them at that very moment, I guess it would have looked a little suspicious. I don't know. I feel like he could have done that. Or maybe it's because they didn't want to do it by themselves. They felt like they needed Cole. Obviously, they have to trick him and drug him, but that just divided the team even more. I did like that we did get the return of that FBI agent, the one they met in the 40s. I did feel a little bad for him because he was talking about the fact is that, now that, knowing that the world's going to end does kind of cause you to kind of be a little paranoid. You kind of don't live life the same. You don't treat things the same because it's like, it ended up costing him his marriage. He even talked about the fact that he didn't have a granddaughter that he doesn't get to see anymore. He probably won't get to see anymore. And he also brought up something like, I don't know how to interpret it. Basically, he said, yo, Cole, you and me, we've been friends for a long time. And then Cole's like, what do you mean? We've only met once. And he was like, right. Now I like to interpret that as the fact is meaning Cole has come back. Anywhere between the 40s till now, Cole has reappeared. Remember, he is supposed to be back here in 57. So maybe he comes back a little bit earlier. Because the plan was to basically, there was a hotel explosion, or there was some kind of explosion, and that explosion killed like a whole bunch of people. And that's, that was the primary dying. So I think their plan was to basically for him to go back to 1956 and wait a year, or try to maneuver himself, take that time to be able to track down the primary. Gives himself a year to track down the primary and kind of prevent that from happening. I guess that was the original plan. That's how my understanding of it was. So maybe somewhere in that time period he ran into that FBI agent again, or maybe he ended up going back a little further. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe he's just like, oh yeah, we buddied up that one time that makes us friends. About it. The way he was saying it, it makes me think like, no, him and Cole had another interaction. But then he was probably thinking like, oh yeah, this whole time travel thing. Like, let me not mention that because probably Cole, the other Cole, probably like from further along in the future timeline is like, yeah, don't, if you run into another me and he's unfamiliar with us being friends, don't say anything. You're going to kind of fuck with the whole time space continuum type of thing. I did like the twist where it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're talking about the fact that you came here looking for this doctor who's connected to Titan. It's like, I saw the files that were unredacted. It's like the reason why Titan was mentioned is because you are here mentioning it. So you're kind of chasing your own tails. But it turns out that the doctor is very important, which I find funny. Like, just one of those things I kind of had to point out. It's the actor who plays Leaky. He played Leaky, Dr. Leaky on Orphan Black, but I can't remember Taggart. I was, oh god, from Eureka, another sci-fi show. But I was just like, I could not remember for the life of me while I was watching. I was like, hey, it's you from Eureka. You had a thing with Joe, and we saw you from time to time. I couldn't remember his name, but just remember Taggart. I don't know. It's always interesting when you see him kind of like, because seeing him as Taggart was the first time I'd ever seen that actor as someone, and then I saw him as Dr. Leaky, so that was just like, I know, one of those things, like, it's going outside the show. It has no importance. It's just, I like nitpicking over actors about things like that. But nevertheless, I did like that we ended, it's like, oh man, he has nothing to do with it. And it's like, oh, he has everything to do with it. Because apparently, the witness came to him basically back in the day to do some research. And essentially, he is what creates the messengers. Basically, he was to create humans who would be resistant to not just the plague, all disease. And not him directly. He did directly make the messengers, but not he himself. Is basically they use his research to make the messengers, because obviously, because you can tell the messengers were mainly in their 20s or 30s. This is in the 60s, so I think they were born. Yeah, because they were born in like present day, like 2015, 2016. That's kind of around the time they were born. So. Not 2016, definitely 2015. So obviously, but I did like that big reveal, because he is considered a father, and we actually got to see what his research came down to, because he actually made someone, and that person turns out to be Olivia. I did like that little twist. I didn't figure it out to the last minute. I was like, who is this little girl? We know who she is, don't it? Like, it's going to turn out to be she's someone significant. And before, like a minute before they revealed, I was like, Olivia. Which to me, I was like, that's so weird, because you know what that means? That means, and it's brought up, like, Tall Man is her brother, which they don't act like siblings, but I guess it's because technically, like, they had the same mother, but she was born from the messenger's eggs. Because I was wondering if we were ever going to find out the answer. It's like, oh yeah, but who gave you their eggs to do this? And it's like, of course it was the messenger. So that's why Olivia's always been so dedicated to the witness, is because her mom is so dedicated to her. It's like I said, it's such a weird cycle, because like I said, we saw the tall man taking care of one of the messengers, and one of the messengers turned out to be his mother. But I thought that was so very interesting. And it seems Olivia is actually special. Obviously she's an experiment, but it seems like she doesn't have a normal human body. We've seen it a little bit. Apparently she heals faster than a normal person, but I guess because they're brother and sister, that's why he never casted her aside. It's like, she's kind of turning against the witness already, being like, oh, we can't believe in him anymore. So I was like wondering why he never just cast her aside and just dealt with her. But it's like, I guess because she's his sister. So also because Olivia is important. Like, we didn't really get to see how the messengers came about, so I don't know, like, what part she played it. Maybe they used maybe they used her DNA and recreated the experiment that doctor had used to make her. Maybe technically maybe in a twisted sense, maybe all of the messengers are actually her children, like they used her eggs. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking that, but maybe it's just maybe they implanted her DNA in baby. I don't know. Like, it depends on whether the babies needed to be born first. Like, could they be born first and then injected with her blood? Or, did it already have to be encoded in her DNA by, it's like, oh, the moment they're born being injected with that DNA. Like, the moment they're conceived. That's what I mean. Or rather made, not rather conceived. I don't know. But nevertheless, I thought that was very interesting. And we did see Olivia kind of being like, I've lost all faith in the witness. Like, my cycle with him ends here. So I don't know whether to interpret that as like, oh, she's going to join Cole and them, or she's just going to be off on her own. Maybe it's going to be like she's off on her own, but then Cole and them find out about her. Because what had happened was like Ramsey was like, Cole was like, we got to go after that girl. She's important in all of this. But Ramsey was more focused on what we actually saw it again, the word of the witness. Basically, it's the thing Jennifer saw that basically has everyone's names written on it. It's the thing she saw that had her, like, the day she died, like, September something, 2044. And they saw that Ramsey focused on it because the thing that said something about the location of Titan. It was like coordinates or whatever, and he took that rather than going after the child. And it's just like, because like they were so dead set on this. I'm surprised Cole didn't bring it up, because remember last episode, Jennifer, was that last episode? Yeah, that Jennifer brought it up, being like, their need for vengeance is going to screw things up. Like, they're going to try and go after Titan, but that's just going to lead to them dying. I'm surprised he didn't bring that up. I feel like they would have been a little more receptive to it, but at the same time, maybe they still, because Cassie's so consumed with revenge about like what he she felt violated. He possessed her body, made her do something like that. Ramsey's like, my son, it's just like, I mean, especially when you think about the fact that Ramsey's sacrifice for his son too, that just right there shows you just how important his son is to him. His son is this world. He's all he's got left in this time. And that was kind of his only reason for kind of sticking around. That's why he kept on fighting, trying to create a better future for his son, essentially. So, but, I did like it at the very end of the episode, because we see a very distinct split between the team, because Cole is like, you know what, screw this. Lock them up, lock up Ramsey and lock up Cassie, and then Soldier Dude was kind of like, whoa, are you sure about this, Cole? Maybe we shouldn't do this, be dividing our forces. He's like, no, screw it. And Cassie's like, come on, Cole, I know we lied to you. It's like, yeah, you did a lot more. You lied to him. You put him in a position where like the storm is already approaching. It's like right in Jones' doorway, like her words, it's like right at the door. You even see it at the end of the episode. It's right there at the facility. And it's because basically what they did, they didn't have enough time, because basically Adler coded their location so it would be harder to like after a little while, obviously you'd be able to track them down. And he kind of coded their anchor so that they couldn't be brought back immediately, and that cost them time, because essentially they were saying like we had enough power to do both, but it was kind of a decision by Cole and Jones to only focus on one mission, because in her mind she was like, I'd rather focus on a mission of hope rather than one of vengeance, theirs being vengeance. But it was just kind of like sad, because it's like, Cole's done playing, because like he was happy in the beginning, because he's like, yo, I know we haven't agreed a lot, but I'm glad you two chose my side, for them to end up drugging him. So they lied to him, and they put not just themselves but the entire facility, the entire future in danger, because of their need for revenge. Cole wasn't able to go back in time to save the primary, to kind of buy them more time, because it's like, if you let me do the primary thing, we'll have more time to hunt down the witness. But they're so dead set on revenge. They're like, no, once we take care of him, it'll end it all. But even Cole's like, do you know for sure that that's going, you stop the puppet master, that doesn't mean that the strings that are already pulled will be cut as well. So it's like, killing him doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to stop. It's still going to lead to them dying. But I guess in their, like, at least in Ramsey's mind, I'm not sure for Cassie's, but in Ramsey's mind, it's kind of like, at that point, he doesn't care. I feel like in Ramsey's case, he doesn't care whether he lives or dies. As long as he gets his revenge, that's all he cares about. I did like the fact is that when they were kind of being interrogated by those Mossad agents, that he was just kind of like, you lay a finger on her and I will hurt you, I will kill you. It's just kind of interesting, like, that they've kind of grown attached since the last episode. It's always a love-hate relationship between those two. They're kind of cool with each other for one moment, but really because they've always been okay with each other simply for Cole's sake. It's like, that's the only reason why they've ever really gotten along, but they've always had differences of opinions on things. And what I ended up liking was something, with that situation, it's kind of like, well, I guess because he knows that, she's on the same wavelength as him. Because previously with this, she probably would always agree with Cole, but now she's agreeing with him and not Cole. But, they're not thinking with clear heads. Because that's something he was always talking about, like, you're always telling me to actually think before I act, Ramsey. Now I am, and you're not. He's like, but Ramsey was basically saying, I've done enough to earn me the right to act, a little rash every once in a while. Like, I'm able to act rash now because I've, earned the right, because I've thought ahead, with my moves. And it's just like, yeah, but you're not thinking clearly. Like I brought up before, like, you don't know killing the witness will stop what's coming. So I did like that. But like also on top of all that, Gale, the FBI agent that he was working with, actually died because of them too. He, buying Cole more time, and it's just like, he was like, I can't help looking at my granddaughter without being like, yo, she's already dead, but you can change that, Cole. And he sacrificed himself. So that's another reason why, Cole's pissed about it too. Because it's like the two people he trusted most to have his back betrayed him and put all of their lives in danger, put the future in danger. So he's entitled to be pissed. And something interesting that came up in this episode is we finally had Deacon kind of finally open up his feelings to Cassie. Because we kind of could already see that he has feelings for her. But he brought up something interesting, like, I didn't ever tell you this, but I actually remembered you from before, like during the plague, like you popping up all over the TV, being with the CDC. And I guess, that kind of, became a little something special to him, because it just, she's kind of like a little beacon of hope, just something that he'd always constantly watch on TV. And then she brought up, it was like, oh, it's a one-time thing. I was like, whoa, wait, y'all did it. And she was like, basically, essentially the situation was they were in a life or death situation. It's like, it was a situation that kind of looked a little hopeless, so that's what led to it. She's like, it's just a one-time thing, there's nothing more from it. Like, cause as you can see, he has feelings for her, but she's pushing him aside because, like, it's because of that circumstance. She's like, the way I am now, I don't have, time for that. She kind of pushed Cole away in the same sense. And Deacon was basically like, you fit in with this facility. That's why he liked her before, because she wasn't like anyone in the future. I mean, obviously, because she comes from a different time, and she hadn't grown, like, she hadn't been completely enveloped by this present time, that like this harsh reality that they've all had to grow up and live through. So she wasn't tainted by it, but now she is. She's grown a little cold-hearted like everyone else in this time. So yeah, I actually feel a little bit bad for Deacon, especially at the end. We see him out there drinking, and you see the storm approaching. It's just kind of like, I kind of feel bad for him a little bit. I guess that's one reason why he's always stuck by her. Like, he's fought so hard, for and with her, is because, like, she kind of held a special place in his heart prior to that, just because of, like, always seeing her messages on the TV. So that was very interesting. I can only assume, I saw a smidget of the, like, maybe, like, 3 or 5 seconds of the next episode of preview, and Jones is telling Cole to hurry. So I can only assume they're going to try and go through the mission again. Maybe they're probably not going to do the whole thing they had with Cole, like waiting a whole year. They're probably going to expedite it and make it so, like, you have to track down this primary as fast as you can to kind of deal with this situation. So very interested to see where it go, especially like the team is divided, because makes you wonder, like, how Deacon's going to feel about the situation. Maybe he won't care as much. I mean, kind of having Cassie kind of break his heart like that. So I'm very curious, because, like, the team is kind of shattered. Like, Cole was completely cutting himself off from his team because it's all, like, he doesn't trust them anymore. He can't with what they just did. And especially considering how he feels about Cassie, for him to kind of cast her, like, aside like that. Even she's like, Cole, and he's just like, no, I'm done. We're done. There's no us anymore. So it's just kind of like, she essentially broke his heart too, doing what she did. So very good episode. Cannot wait to see next week's episode, see how everything's handled. Something I will note, though, I think it's kind of interesting why they never actually brought up, like, okay, did you actually, I guess because he's always wearing a mask and kind of hiding himself, because I would have thought, like, oh, like, you didn't actually ask that doctor if you actually saw what the witness looked like, but then again, it's kind of like, okay, like, it's understandable why you wouldn't, because he's always wearing a mask. So just something that was kind of in the back of my mind, because I was like, he's always wearing a mask, so there's no point in asking what his real identity, because I am very highly curious. Like I said, my money's still on Sam, but I don't know. He could easily turn out to be anyone else, especially because he's constantly bringing up Cole. Like, I want to know, like, why is Cole so important to the witness? Like I threw out a theory before that Cole is connected to this whole virus thing. That the body that Leland originally got the virus from, the one that they burned, I feel like that might actually be Cole's body. I don't know. That was kind of a theory I threw out there, but maybe that's not the case. Nevertheless, like I said, I'm entitled to my theories, whether they make perfect sense or they're just completely stupid. But really, that's finally all I really want to talk about this episode. Once again, a really good episode. Can't wait to see where we go from here. But till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.